All right, and we are back on the fantasy forecast. So we just wrapped up week two. Another crazy week in the NFL, to say the least. Saw a lot of things I loved, saw a lot of things I didn't love. Some of my buddies I've been talking to, they've described the season so far as the strangest NFL season. And I agree. Even 2 weeks in, I agree. It's been pretty wild. Some wild upsets, some stuff everybody expected. The Dolphins are looking like one of the best teams right now, which is kind of wild to me. But I mean, it makes sense looking at the players they have, the stats they're putting up. But yeah, let's get into it. Today's episode is going to be a little different. We got a caller with a question, so I'll be going over that here in a bit. We're going to go over all the picks, top five receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, and then the five that I'm saying to sit this week. And then we have a special guest at the end of the episode. We're just going to chop it up a little bit, talk football. I know this guy knows a lot about football, so stay tuned to that. But yeah, picks looked pretty good last week, actually. There was a few. I mean, like Kirk Cousins, I was hyping him up in the last episode. Nick Chubb, he was on track to have a great game. It really sucks to see what happened to him. But I mean, the picks look pretty good. But as I've been saying before, the in-house algorithm is based off of previous weeks of the season. So the more we get into the season, the more accurate it will be. So really, like this coming week's picks is going to be more accurate than last week's picks, and I'm feeling good about it. I mean, the algorithm is telling me some pretty clear like who to start, who to sit. So yeah, let's hop into that. Let me see. All right. So first off, as far as quarterbacks, top five quarterbacks you need to start this week, you need to start. I'm going Kirk Cousins again. I will dive into that here in a bit. But Kirk Cousins, Tua, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, and C.J. Stroud. Top five, I'm saying to sit. Some of these are surprising. Some of them aren't. But Josh Dobbs, Ryan Tannehill, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Sam Howell. So I'm going to go into a little bit of what I'm seeing statistically, what I'm seeing in the algorithm, give you my reason why I'm choosing these. I'm not going to dive into it too much. Like I said in the last episode, like some of the clear starters, your Patrick Mahomes, your Lamar Jacksons. I don't really want to dive into that because you're going to start them anyways, regardless of what I say. All right, so Kirk Cousins. So 2 weeks in a row, I've put Kirk Cousins like literally at the top of the list. Got to start him. I mean, the Vikings is a passing team altogether now. Ever since they got rid of Dalvin Cook, Kurt put up 28 points last week, and I'm expecting something similar against the Chargers. The reason being, the Chargers secondary isn't very good. They've allowed a lot of passing yards the last 2 weeks. I mean, they made the Titans look like a perfect team. Statistically, they're letting people run up the ball with them. Numbers are saying Kurt should throw at least 3 touchdowns. He'll have two for sure, three most likely, but they're just not a running team anymore. I'm gonna dive into that here in a little bit, but they are a complete passing team. Dolphins are hot. Dolphins have all the hype. I don't expect that to slow down for a while. They're playing the Broncos. Broncos have an okay defense, but it's not great. They've allowed 4 passing touchdowns so far. They're allowing, on average, over 200 yards passing per game. We saw Tua put up 400 yards against the Chargers, so I'm expecting this just to be another big game on his part. If the Broncos can keep up with them, I don't know. I mean, they may slow down. The Broncos haven't looked great either. But as far as Tua goes, he should be having a big game this week. All right, Baker Mayfield. Really liking Baker. Really liking Baker so far. They're playing against the Eagles on another Monday night doubleheader. Eagles secondary is just not very good. They've allowed the second most passing yards this year. They've already had seven passing touchdowns thrown on them. Baker's thrown 3 so far. Stats break that down into you should throw at least 260, 250 minimum. I'm expecting a 300-yard game. Throwing at least 1 touchdown, most likely 2 though. I mean, stats are calling it. Like, Eagles are a great team. They have a really good defensive line, but just the secondary is just awful. Like really bad. These are always going to be high-scoring games for the Eagles, it seems like. But I mean, it's fun to watch. But yeah, if you have Baker Mayfield, or even if he's available right now, like, you should be picking him up off the waiver wire or make a trade for him. Somebody may be willing to get rid of him. I know Baker kind of has like a controversial past as far as like not being great, but he's looking good right now. All right, next one I'm really liking this week, CJ Stroud. They're playing against the Jaguars. It's a big AFC South matchup. I think the Texans are due one. I think they're going to win. Jags are allowing a lot of passing yards against them. Not looking great as far as defense goes. Stroud is warming up. Seems like he's starting to like kind of get his momentum now. So I would pick him up. I know a lot of people don't have him right now. Pick him up, start him. I like Stroud this week. Jared Goff. We called Jared Goff last week. Had a pretty decent game, but I'm liking him again this week just because they're playing Atlanta. Atlanta's passing defense it's okay. It's not great. But it's more so they're not defending touchdowns. Like, they're not allowing a crazy amount of yards, but they're allowing touchdowns. Atlanta's allowed 4 passing touchdowns. Jared Goff has thrown 4 passing touchdowns. So when you look at the breakdown, like, you should expect Jared Goff to throw at least 2 touchdowns this game. So I like him. Start him if you got him. He's probably not available to pick up in leagues right now, but if he is, snag him. To go into who we are sitting this week. So this one, first one's Josh Dobbs. I love Josh Dobbs. Great guy. Seems like a great guy. But Cowboys. Shout out to Dominic. Dominic's been saying this for years, my buddy Dominic. But the Cowboys look good. Their defense looks great. The algorithm's saying, like, stay far away. Yeah, I mean, I doubt you're just starting Josh Dobbs in your league. He did have a big week last week, but don't start him this week. Ryan Tannehill, similar situation, had a big week last week. Titans look good, but they're playing the Browns. The Browns have looked great against passers. They've only allowed 1 touchdown in the last 2 games, passing touchdowns. I mean, the Titans played the Chargers. I already mentioned earlier the Chargers have one of the worst passing defenses in the league right now. So don't let that make you think this is a big Tannehill week. I think the Titans, could beat the Browns, but it's not going to be their pass game. It's going to be a Derrick Henry game. Next up, don't start Joe Burrow. That's so hard to say. I hate saying it. I do not like saying that, but statistically, he's looked bad the last 2 games. Not even just statistically, but just watching the games, he's looked bad. If he even plays, I mean, there's rumors that he's injured right now. But if he is playing, like, he's obviously playing injured. They're not looking great. The Rams defense has been awesome. They haven't really been allowing a whole lot of passing yards. They've only had 1 passing touchdown scored against them. I think the Bengals will eventually come back to being like, the normal team we're used to seeing, but I just don't think it's this game, right? It's a Monday night like showdown. I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed with this game though, as far as Bengals fans. Jordan Love's looked pretty good so far. He's playing a Saints defense. I mean, the Saints are 2-0. They're really only 2-0 because of their defense, right? The offense hasn't looked that impressive. I'm expecting him to throw about 140, 150 yards based off the stats of what the Packers have been doing versus what the Saints have been allowing. He may throw 1 touchdown pass, but I'm not expecting that. I think this is going to be the Jordan Love that we kind of expected going into the season. Doesn't mean they won't win the game. I just think it'll be a very low scoring game. That's not really what you want out of your fantasy quarterback. And then the last quarterback I'm saying to sit is Sam Howell. They're playing the Bills. Bills defense playing pretty solid. They're not going to allow the Commanders over 200 passing yards. Like just stats, algorithm says that they won't. It's going to be a running game for Washington. Their running game is a lot stronger than their passing game, especially playing a defense like the Bills. So yeah, I mean, Sam Howell's not a bad one to have on your team, but I would be using your other quarterback this week. Next up, we'll be discussing the wide receivers. I'm saying to start and sit. So all right. So as far as receivers go, I have as you must start is Jordan Addison, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Keenan Allen, and Mike Evans. Receivers that you should be sitting this week. Some of these are going to be a little surprising. Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, and Brandon Ayuk. I don't know. Hopefully I'm saying that right. All right, Jordan Addison, big Jordan Addison fan right now. As much as I'm hyping up the Vikings, I swear I'm not a Vikings fan. But Jordan Addison, he's playing good. He's looking good. Kirk Cousins throwing good balls. I'm not gonna get into this too much. I already kind of talked about Kirk Cousins, but the Chargers are just allowing a lot of passing yards. Justin Jefferson can't catch all of those, right? Somebody else has to catch them. So I'm expecting Jordan Addison to have another big game, right? So definitely start him. Next one I like is Stephon Diggs. They're playing against Washington. I don't think this is going to be a very close game. Let me pull up some stats real quick. I'll see what the algorithm's saying, but Buffalo Bills. Okay, yeah. So Buffalo has thrown for 4 touchdowns so far. Washington has allowed 3. Josh Allen's thrown for 484 yards for the season. Washington's allowed about 400. I mean, yeah, Josh Allen should have a big game. Stephon Diggs should have a big game. Stats are looking pretty good. Washington's defense isn't incredible. I mean, it's not the worst in the league. Definitely not close to being the best in the league. So Stephon Diggs should have a big game. Up next, Nico Collins. I'm liking Nico Collins. Texans are looking to be pretty decent right now. Nico had 27 points last week. He's the clear number 1 receiver. Jacksonville's allowed 3 passing touchdowns over the last 2 games. See what kind of yardage Jacksonville has allowed. Yeah, they've allowed 382 for the season so far. So I mean, they're getting the ball thrown on them. They're not the worst defense in the league, but I think this being a big AFC South showdown and nobody's really expected a whole lot out of the Texans, I think that we're going to see CJ Stroud play his best game so far, and I think Nico Collins is going to benefit from that. Next up, we have Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen looked good against the Titans last week. He had 2 passing touchdowns, put up like 29 fantasy points. I mean, start him again this week. I'm sure you weren't having your doubts, but he's not like a clear number 1 guy to have. Not yet, at least. I think he will become one. Let's see. The Chargers, they're playing the Vikings. The Vikings are allowing quite a few yards to be passed on them. They've allowed 3 passing touchdowns. Chargers have thrown 3. I mean, it's looking good. It's looking good for Keenan Allen. Definitely start him. And then I have Mike Evans. I've already kind of broke down Baker Mayfield and their yardage and stuff. I think Mike Evans is going to benefit the most from that. So Mike Evans is one to start this week for sure. As far as sitting goes, Jamar Chase talked about Joe Burrow possibly being injured, not looking like the same Bengals team America loves to love. But yeah, Jamar Chase, he just hasn't really. He's such a big name, and like I know he probably got drafted second, third overall in your league, so it's hard to not start him. But at the same time, you have to win games. You have to do what's best for your team. Sit him out, give him a break, wait till they have a better matchup. But the Rams are just playing too good right now. All right, so next up, I'm saying sit Chris Olave. That's another hard one to sit if you drafted him. You probably got him, he's probably 15, 16 overall pick. They're playing the Packers. Packers defense is pretty decent. Just the Saints aren't really scoring many passing touchdowns, right? They're playing a slow paced game. Chris Olave, he kind of has competition with Michael Thomas right now for who is the number one receiver, right? I mean, Michael Thomas is looking pretty good. Packers have only allowed 2 passing touchdowns on them so far. So, I mean, the odds of Olave getting a passing touchdown over Michael Thomas, like it's not safe. It's not a safe pick. Like maybe throw him in a flex if you need to, but I think there's better sleeper options out there. Olave is just not really the safe fantasy pick that we expected yet. Next up, DK Metcalf. Another surprise one, honestly. I mean, Seattle's looked all right, but the Panthers have a pretty decent defense. They're doing well holding opposing quarterbacks to not a whole lot of yards. Panthers only have 1 passing touchdown thrown against them so far. So, I mean, it's not looking great for Seattle. I think Seattle wins this game. I just think it's kind of a low-scoring game, to be honest with you. Bryce Young doesn't look like incredible yet, but it's just the defense is kind of keeping them in games right now. So DKF doesn't seem super safe. I'm sitting him this week, but to each their own. Stats say to sit him though. Saying sit Calvin Ridley as well. Texans have a pretty good defense against the pass game. We've seen that the last couple weeks. They're kind of the whole reason any of these Texans games have even been decent, really. Calvin Ridley had a great breakout week in week 1, but I would stay away from him this week just based off the algorithm. And then Brandon Ayuk. This is a rough one too. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns in week 1, played great in week 1. But just statistically, this is going to be a running game for the 49ers. This is going to be a big McCaffrey game, right? The Rams, let's see. Not the Rams. The Niners, they're playing against the Giants, right? The Giants only have 1 passing touchdown against them, believe it or not. Let's see. Let me pull up these stats real quick. Let me see what's happening here. Yeah, so the Giants have allowed 1 passing touchdown. Between the last 2 games, they've only allowed 371 yards. This doesn't seem like a huge Purdy ball-out game, right? Like I would expect the Niners to still win. They have a really good defense. But it just seems more like a McCaffrey game. It seems more like you might throw George Kittle a few balls, or it's also a very diluted team. You have a lot of star players, right? I know it's gonna be hard to sit Brandon this week, but it's really not safe. I wouldn't play him. All right, let's get into running backs now. Running backs was hard this week. It was like the ones that are clear to start this week are also, I mean, some guys I never even heard of going into this season. But I mean, there's some really low key guys playing well, and I mean, I'm very confident in these guys I'm about to say, right? Just based off the numbers. This was actually statistically easier to choose than quarterbacks and receivers, but just from the aspect of okay, I don't know anything about these guys. That was the hard part of choosing. But numbers wise, it's a no-brainer. All right, so running backs you need to start this week are going to be Joshua Kelly, Kyron Williams, Tony Jones Jr., Kenneth Walker, and Justice Hill. Let's see. Running backs you need to sit. I've got Rachaad White, Damian Pierce, A.J. Dillon, Breece Hall, Alexander Madison. Just to give you a brief breakdown on all these, because we've got some other stuff in the show we need to get to. All right, so Joshua Kelly. I do really like Joshua Kelly here. The Vikings have allowed the third most rushing yards amongst everybody, right? Like they don't have a very good D line. Joshua Kelly, he's the guy that's in for Eckler being out. Some of the stats are going to be a little more like skewed toward Eckler playing week 1, but as far as the Chargers run game, Chargers O line is pretty good. I'm starting him here for sure. Kyron Williams, he just had a breakout week with the Rams. Statistically, the Bengals have allowed some of the most rushing yards in the season so far. The Rams have 4 rushing touchdowns throughout the season. They're talking like Cam Akers could get traded to the Browns this weekend. Kyron Williams is like a lock. Like, start him. I'm trying to trade for him right now. Doesn't look like it's gonna happen, but I'm all about Kyron Williams for sure. Next up, I got Tony Jones Jr. for the Saints. Just coming off big 2 touchdowns last week. Now, typically, I wouldn't just start somebody because they had 2 touchdowns last week, but they're playing against the Packers, who don't have a very good defensive line. They're allowing a ton of rushing yards. I'm expecting Tony Jones Jr. to have another big week, especially Derek Carr. It's been kind of hit or miss with the passes. They're going to have to lean towards the run game against this weak defensive line. So Tony Jones Jr., that's a good one to snag. Probably on the waiver wire right now. If you have one of the early waiver picks, try and get him. But if if you've been winning your weeks, hopefully you have. It's going to be hard to get him. Everybody's going to be trying to get this guy. Kenneth Walker, the Panthers have allowed 4 rushing touchdowns so far. That's 2 per week this early in the season, right? I'm liking Kenneth Walker. I know I said don't start DK Metcalf. It just seems like the Panthers have a much stronger secondary than their defensive line. So, Kenneth Walker Jr. is a good pick this week. And then Justice Hill. Justice Hill was kind of a letdown last week compared to the week he had in week 1, but they're playing the Colts. The Colts have allowed 2 rushing touchdowns. They've allowed quite a few rushing yards. I think the Ravens are going to get kind of playful this game. I think we're going to see a lot of options, a lot of different little scrambles by Lamar, but I think Justice Hill gets involved in that. Maybe catches a few passes too. But yeah, that's who I'm saying to start. But then as far as sitting goes, these are feel pretty good about all of these statistically who we need to sit, right? So algorithm, clear person to not start this week is Rachaad White for Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay is playing the Eagles. The Eagles haven't allowed a rushing touchdown yet. It's crazy. Like the Eagles have one of the best defensive lines, but they have one of the worst secondaries, right? And teams know this. Teams are all looking at these stats, and this is how they're kind of like creating their game plans. Rachaad White, his numbers look awful. Let's see. I was looking at these earlier. Yeah, the Bucs have had 1 rushing touchdown. The Eagles have allowed 0. The Bucs have only had they've had 193 rushing yards, but the Eagles have allowed 104. Stats aren't as bad as I thought. But no, I'm still not playing. It's still pretty clear. Like it's gonna be a big passing game, especially being a Monday night game. I think it's gonna be a fast paced, this is gonna be like a 27-21 type game, right? 28-21 type game. So not starting Rachaad White. Next up, Damian Pierce. Damian looked great last year. Hasn't really done much this year. Jacksonville has a very strong defensive front. I'm expecting less than 50 yards out of them, to be honest with you. Like, let's see, Houston, 0 rushing touchdowns, only 124 rushing yards throughout the season. Jacksonville's only allowed 166, 1 rushing touchdown. Like, Dameon Pierce isn't as safe as a pick as he was last year. AJ Dillon. So the Packers are playing the Saints, as I mentioned earlier. The Saints have one of the best defensive lines in the league. I'm really expecting Jordan Love to kind of struggle a little bit in this game just because he's playing one of the stronger defenses he's played. But I don't think they're going to be able to lean on the run game in order to try and win this game, right? Saints haven't allowed a rushing touchdown yet. We saw them, stop Derrick Henry. We saw them. Who'd they play? Played the Panthers. I'm not expecting much out of AJ Dillon this one. If you have anybody else you can throw in, or maybe one of these kind of low key running backs, if you can pick them up on the waiver wire and play them instead, I think you'll definitely benefit from that. Next up, Breece Hall. Breece Hall is kind of a rough one to gauge, but they're playing against the Patriots. Probably going to be one of the lowest scoring games of the day, to be honest with you. I mean, it's the Patriots versus the Jets. It's like, in my opinion, 2 of the best defenses playing against each other. It's just going to be hard to get anything rolling. I know Breece Hall had a big week 1, and then week 2 kind of fell off a little bit. I think this Patriots defense is pretty similar to what we saw in the Cowboys last week. And if that's the case, I mean, him or Dalvin Cook aren't really going to put up any points. And then Alexander Mattison, very disappointed in Alexander Madison's numbers so far. The Vikings have the least amount of rushing yards out of any team over the last 2 games. They've only had 69 yards over 2 games. They haven't got a rushing touchdown yet. The Chargers' defensive front isn't incredible, but it's more so just the Vikings' run game is just bad right now, right? This might be Madison's biggest game he's had out of the last 2 games, just based off the defense, but that doesn't really mean much at this point, I mean, he might put up 8 or 9 points in fantasy, but I mean, it's going to be a pass game. It's going to be a Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, slinging the ball everywhere, right? So yeah, that's my picks. We did get we got a call. Daniel from Nashville, Tennessee. So we'll play that real quick, and then I'll kind of go over some stats that I'm seeing based off of his question, and then we will move on to the next segment. But I'm going to let that play real quick.
What's up, man? First-time caller. Have a question for you. How do you foresee Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua of the LA Rams rest of season value? And how does Cooper Kupp's return impact this? Thank you.
All right. First off, appreciate it, Daniel, for calling in. Yeah, so the Rams. Sounds like you have some questions about the Rams. Let me pull up their stats for this next game. I kind of talked about him earlier, but let's see. Kyren Williams, feeling good about Kyren Williams. He seems to be the man in LA for sure, right? Seems like the team likes him. Seems like he has some chemistry. Played great last week. Numbers look solid. Especially also, as I mentioned, it seems like they're getting rid of Cam Akers, which really just gives him room, Kyren Williams, to make the team his, right? I like the Rams this week. Bengals haven't played great. They've been allowing a lot of rushing yards, a lot of passing yards on them. Big fan of Matt Stafford right now. I think he's looking pretty good. I think he's going to have a big game. Based off these stats, predicted algorithm. All right, to pull up some stats on this game. The predicted algorithm is saying Stafford should throw for around 240 to 260 yards this game, um, with an expected amount of touchdowns being 2 touchdowns, right? So, I mean, who's going to catch these? Somebody has to catch them, right? Puka Nakua seems like he's the guy right now with Cup out. The latest I've seen is that Cup is expected to sometime around week 5 or week 6. I think the Rams, they're trying to milk as many wins right now without Cooper Cup, which it's what you got to do in the NFL, right? So I'm expecting Puka Nakua to have another good 3 weeks. The Rams are still a passing team. I mean, that's what they got Stafford for, right? He's a passing quarterback. He's good at it. He looks good at it. But once Cooper Cup comes back, that's an iffy one. We've seen how Cooper Cup plays, right? He's a beast. He's a top 5 receiver, maybe a top 3 receiver, depending on who you're talking to. Especially if he's like 100% healthy when he comes back. Hopefully, he doesn't rush coming back. So once he is playing, Puka Nakua may still be a strong flex option. I know last year we saw Allen Robinson as the number 2 receiver to Cooper Cup, and like the production was very disappointing. So hopefully that doesn't happen to Puka. But I really hope I'm saying that right, Puka Nakua. But at the same time, like, don't trade him. Definitely start him the next 3 weeks, and then bench him when Cooper comes back. Kind of see how it plays out. I could see him still being like a decent flex option though, but there is no replacing Cooper Cup. All right, cool. Thank you for calling, Daniel. All right, so now we have a very special guest hopping on the show for a bit. We're going to kind of just discuss football in general, right? I went over my picks. Before that, I mean, go ahead and leave a comment if you're watching. Ask some questions about what would it be, week 4's matchups, any stats, any players, any of that. I mean, I have all the numbers right here. I have a great algorithm. It worked well last week. I'm expecting like great results this week. So yeah, leave some comments. I want to get some more involvement from the viewers on the show. But yeah, without further ado, let's bring our special guest in. All right, welcome AJ Eagle to the Fantasy Forecast. How's it going?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
Living the dream, man. Just going through these picks. I know I sent you some of my picks earlier, but I'll go over those real quick. I kind of just want your opinion on them. I haven't really sent you the stats, just more so I know you're a big NFL guy. I know you really like fantasy football. So just kind of your perspective on some of these, right?
Yeah, I'm a feel guy, man. I know you're all about the stats, but I'm just a feel guy. Just by watching them, we'll see. We'll see if we're so.
I'm here for you. I'm here to give you the stats, right?
Yeah, we'll see if we're similar or not. Stats. All right, what you got?
All right. So quarterbacks. I got Kirk Cousins, Tua, however you say his last name, Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, and Jared Goff. What do you like there? What do you not like there?
I like Kirk Cousins. I think I had that on my list. I mean, I'm gonna be basically the typical quarterbacks everyone's gonna pick in the week, as in Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. But I think to switch it up with my picks, I'm more of I know you know this, but I like Anthony Richardson. I like him. I watched him play his last game. I know he only played like the first quarter. He got taken out, but before he was taken out, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he had like 17 or 18 points. Basically, I'm pretty sure he was taken out in the first quarter. So he already had that amount of points. And then after that, dude, and I don't know if you'll like this one either, I like Jordan Love. I think he had 6 touchdowns in 2 games, no interceptions. Mm-hmm. I think he's over 20 points both games. So, like, consistency is huge with me. So, I mean, if he could keep that going throughout the season, I think that's huge. And that's a sad one for me because I'm obviously a big Rodgers fan. I know you are too. I actually had to drop Aaron Rodgers and I picked this dude up, but he's been consistent so far. So I think that's really where I sway from you. Well, we agreed on two, I guess, and then it was different after that. I like Trevor Lawrence too. I think he's spinning it pretty good. He's spreading it out between. He had Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley had over 20 points his first game, and then last game, Christian Kirk kind of went off a little bit. So he's starting to spread it out a little bit. Hopefully, he can even it out between his two receivers. So that was another quarterback I had on my list going forward.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually just talking trash about Jordan Love, so I'm glad to hear the second opinion on that.
No picks, dude. I mean,
yeah, I mean, no picks does mean something. Let me see what I'm seeing statistically on that game, because I think there will be a lot of division on that one, right? So the Packers are playing the Saints this week.
It's in Green Bay too. It's going to be in Green Bay. And with Jordan Love, I feel like he's spreading it out between his receivers as well. Romeo Doubs had a big game the first game. I forgot who they played. And then this last game, it was the rookie, Reed.
Yeah.
I think he had a big game, possibly a touchdown as well. And if they get Christian Watson back and he's already comfortable with two receivers, then their wide receiver one back into the lineup.
Yeah.
I like Jordan Love, dude. Like I said, I'm starting him. So I didn't listen to you. I stay with him over Baker Mayfield, and I think he played pretty well. He had, like I said, he had over 20 points last week.
My only thing about the Saints is that they have a pretty good defense. That's my only thing.
Yeah, I mean, I will say he hasn't really played anyone.
Yeah.
Well, he lost to Atlanta, and then they beat week one? Is it Carolina?
Saints, the Titans.
No, Green Bay.
Packers, yeah, they beat Atlanta.
So let's see. That's what I'm saying with Jordan Love. He's got these good stats. I don't know if they've really played anybody yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Saints are an incredible team either, though. You know, so I mean, he could play well. Just algorithm says no, but I mean, I'm rooting for the guy.
It's sad. It's sad to root for him, dude. Not his fault though.
My quarterback sit list, I have in the first one, like I feel weird putting it, but just based off what I'm seeing on the algorithm, it's like the clear number one no-go is Josh Dobbs.
Obviously. I mean, right?
I don't think anybody's playing him, but it's just like when I'm putting all 32 starting quarterbacks in, that's the number one that you don't play this week. I have Ryan Tannehill against the Browns. Browns secondary is pretty good, or very good. Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Sam Howell.
Sam Howell. Who does the Bengals play?
The Rams on a Monday night.
Dude, come on, man. Come on, man.
The Rams defense is legit. It's legit.
It's Joe Burrow though. Like I know he started off slow. I know there was a weird trade in our league with some dude just basically dumping him and Jamar Chase. Like I don't understand that. 2 weeks into the season, the dude missed the whole like off season with the injury. I don't know if he's really 100% yet.
Yeah.
I know his what is it, a calf injury or something.
He's hurt again. I don't know if I think he's playing, but they haven't officially said it yet.
Yeah, but I mean, dude, he's too good. The team's too good for them not to just break away.
I think they'll start heating up eventually, but I don't think it's against the Rams this week.
I don't know. We might does the Rams just come off a loss in San Francisco? Yeah. Or was it?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I don't know. I like everybody else on that list but Joe Burrow. There's no way I could put Joe Burrow on a sit list, dude.
So let's see. Yeah, the Rams, they on average they're allowing 150 passing yards a game. They've only allowed one passing touchdown so far. Compared to the Bengals, they've only thrown 2 passing touchdowns so far. I mean, it's kind a little iffy.
Yeah. Yeah, Jordan Love on your sit list, really? You don't
Yeah,
like him? Just based on who they're playing?
just based off who they're playing. I think he's played all right, but we just haven't seen enough of him either, though.
Yeah. You're
Um,
right. He might hasn't played a top tier, I guess, defense yet. So
yeah. Wide receivers that I'm liking this week: Jordan Addison, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. You have any of those on your list?
I got Mike Evans. The other one is that Puka guy or Puka, however you pronounce him with the Rams dude.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watched that game. That's like Stafford's favorite target. Like every other play, he's going to that dude, bro.
that's
Every other play, he's going to that dude.
I just took a call from Daniel from Nashville, talking about Puka. His question kind of was, is Puka still going to be the guy once Cooper Cup comes, and kind of what's the outlook for him, right?
I don't know if Cooper Cup's gonna be the double coverage guy. This guy's obviously slippery. I mean, he just put up 30 points against a top tier defense in San Francisco. So yeah, I think he's a starter no matter what. Honestly,
So you
I
think
like him so far. I like Tyler Lockett too. I like Tyler Lockett a lot, especially if DK Metcalf. I don't think he's gonna miss time, but if he does miss time, I could see him obviously putting up some big numbers again. He had 25 points last week. It seems like every year I have this dude on my team, and he's like the most consistent receiver like I always have.
he just somehow
It's Tyler Lockett. I mean, DK Metcalf just like I guess draws all the attention, and they have this dude who again is a slippery receiver who
right?
could get have big games and score touchdowns. And then I also have I have Mike Evans as well. It seems like Baker just loves Mike Evans,
Yeah.
throwing it up to him. I've seen it a couple of times now. And then I also have AJ Brown on there.
Okay.
I like his little interaction with Jalen Hurts, and they're like yelling at each other on the sideline.
Yeah.
So hopefully, maybe see AJ Brown have a big game coming against Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. So that's who I had on my receiver list.
That's an exciting game.
Yeah, dude. I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a close game actually.
Tampa Bay's allowed quite a few passing yards so far. They've allowed 2 passing touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, it's either AJ or Devontae, right? It's like they both don't have a hot week. It's one or the other. And Devontae Smith has had 2 really good weeks. So AJ Brown's almost due one, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well. And like I said, and then like yelling at each other on the sideline, like give me the ball. I could see him having a big game against Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. That's a good pick. I actually had DK Metcalf on my sit list. Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Ayuk.
Why again, like Jamar Chase, dude, like how can you have him like he's probably drafted third overall and pretty much third or second overall in like every league. How can you sit him?
This isn't their comeback game, right? I think they're going to start slow. I think Burrow's obviously hurt. I don't even know if he's going to play. If he's not playing, then I mean the backup.
Yeah, who's their backup?
I don't even know, right? But if he's not playing, the backup's not going to be feeding Jamar if Joe Burrow couldn't even do it. But just more so, they've looked so bad the last 2 weeks, and the team they're playing, like this Rams defense, is probably the best defense they've played this year.
Yeah.
It's probably right along the lines of the Baltimore defense, but yeah, I don't have much faith. Now, the Bengals play the Titans the next week, who have a good defense, but I mean, I don't know. I think their schedule's gonna get easier, and I think they'll like start working their way back up, especially with Chubb getting hurt in their division. But it might be
speaking of that, bro, did you see? I didn't see that until a little later today. Like I didn't see it last night.
It was awful.
I just saw he was out for the season. I just thought like, oh, he might have like tore his ACL or something. But like Skyler sent me the highlight of that, bro. Nasty, dude.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Yeah. Thoughts
Nah,
go out to him for sure. That's
T's and
rough.
P's, T's and
Yeah,
P's, the Chubb.
yeah.
But you got DK Metcalf sitting. I
Hmm.
always, I think Tyler Lockett's the number one receiver on that team. Honestly, do. So like, I kind of agree with that. Calvin Ridley, I don't know about that one, dude. I think, like I said, Christian Kirk had a big game last game. Calvin Ridley had a big game first game of the season. I kind of see them. I know you're all based on like who they're playing,
Yeah,
but which I guess is a fair point. But and then you got Chris Olave on there.
yeah.
That's the dude for the
Olave.
Saints, right?
Yeah, he plays for the Saints. Pretty much my line of reasoning is that they're playing against the Packers. Saints aren't really their offense isn't.
In Green Bay.
Yeah, the offense isn't very aggressive. Michael Thomas is kind of coming out as the number one receiver. It seems like it's kind of like they're battling for
Yeah,
that
dude, I noticed that too.
spot. And the
They're
Packers have only
they're
allowed well, the Packers have only allowed 2 passing touchdowns this year. So what are the odds of Olave and Thomas both getting one, right?
is is Kamara back this game or is he?
I think it's one more.
So he was out for 3.
Yeah.
I, I agree with you though. I think Michael Thomas is kind of the number one guy there
Yeah.
in
Just
New
watching those
Orleans.
Saints games, he's just more like prevalent, you know?
I just like dumping it off to him for like a guaranteed first down too. They get him on like a little slant or something. So yeah, I mean Olave is a rookie, right? Is he a
Second
rookie?
year. Second year.
Second year.
Yeah, I
So
think he was hurt last year.
see what happens with that.
What running backs you got?
Running backs that have big games.
Yeah.
I like Bijan, dude. I thought he looked super good against what Green Bay.
Yeah.
Dude, he's dirty, bro. He's dirty, and I like him. I like him even more because the dude hasn't scored a touchdown
You
yet. So I
do?
like him to have a big game.
Good.
It's in Detroit, so I think I like him to have a big game. I like. You heard about this guy, freaking Kyron Williams
Yep.
with the Rams? So I didn't know that just the Rams basically just said, "Peace out, Cam Akers, you're done, bro,"
Yeah.
and sign this dude up. So I like him to have a big game. Looks like in Cincy, and then obviously, dude, Gibbs. I like Gibbs. I like him to have a big game now. If he's for sure going to be RB1, now that Montgomery's out. It looks like they're playing. They're in Detroit versus Atlanta, so I like that game. I like for him to get a bunch of touches, and I like for him to get a bunch of like short little dump passes out of the backfield too. So I think he has a big game as well. I'm not just saying that because he's on my team, but I honestly think he has a big game.
Yeah, stats look pretty good for Detroit going into Atlanta right now.
And then also, dude, do you know what's going on with Saquon?
Yeah, he's hurt for a while, right?
Is he out for multiple weeks? Has it come out?
I think so. I think they're expecting like 3 or 4 weeks.
So is San Francisco just giving up a bunch of rushing yards?
Is San Francisco giving up a bunch of rushing yards?
Because Kyron Williams just had like 30 points
Yeah.
on San Francisco.
So they've allowed 5 rushing touchdowns. And in the last 2 games, they've given up 273 rushing yards. So people are breaking 100 yards on them easily.
And like in that case, then I like Matt Breida.
Okay.
Going to be the Giants RB1 if Saquon's going to be out. Like I said, I don't know. I haven't really checked. I saw he looked pissed on the sideline, and that dude's torn his ACL like 30 times. So it's a possibility. Yeah.
I think it's like a 3 to 4 week thing is what I was reading earlier. But I mean, yeah, San Francisco's been giving up some yards for sure. So that's a solid choice.
Yeah, so I like him against San Francisco, like I said. So that's my list. What you got?
Let's see. So I got Joshua Kelly for the Chargers. Since Eckler's still out.
How'd that work last week?
You said what?
How'd that work last week with him?
Joshua Kelly. Well, I mean, the Titans have such a good defensive line compared to the Vikings, right? Titans got Jeff Simmons, like they play a good lockdown game, but the Vikings have allowed the third most rushing yards out of any team so far. So I think that right there is just gonna be kind of the game changers. They just don't have a defensive front. I got Kyron Williams as well. Bengals have been allowing a lot of rushing yards. No Cam Akers most likely. I like this Tony Jones Jr. guy for the Saints. He had 2 rushing touchdowns last week when I forgot the guy's name, starting running back.
Jamal Williams.
Yeah, he went down. One more week till Alvin's back. Seems like the Saints like their rushing game. They like to do a little pass to their running backs too. Packers defensive front isn't that great. They've been allowing a lot of rushing yards. So I like this Tony Jones Jr. guy. I got Kenneth Walker for the Seahawks. The Panthers have allowed 4 rushing touchdowns over 2 games. So I think that's looking good for Kenneth Walker. And then I got Justice Hill on my list again. The Colts have allowed quite a few rushing yards. I think it's either going to be Justice Hill or Lamar getting a lot of rushing yards. I think they're going to go with the little like option reads and stuff, and I think like it's going to be a fun game to watch. But the Colts' defensive front is not incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as sitting, I've got Rashad White for the Buccaneers, Damian Pierce for the Texans, AJ Dillon for the Packers, Breece Hall, and Alexander Madison.
So I got 2 questions. First question: do you think DeAndre Swift? Do you think he's a fluke?
No.
I mean, could you see him having a big game against Tampa Bay? I don't know what they're giving up rushing, but coming off a big game in Philly, who did they play? I forgot who they played last week.
Philly played. It was the Thursday game. It was the Vikings.
Yeah. Was it the Vikings? Nah. Was it the Vikings?
Was it the Vikings? Sorry, I'm looking.
Was it the Vikings? I don't think it was the Vikings.
All right, so Philly's playing against Tampa Bay this week.
Yeah, it was Minnesota in Philly.
So listen to this. So Tampa Bay's only allowed 100 yards the last 2 weeks rushing, with 1 rushing touchdown.
Such a fluke. So you think he's gonna get stopped?
I don't know if he gets stopped, but he's not going to have the same game he just had, right? Like they played Minnesota.
Yeah, coming off
Minnesota has one of the worst like rushing defenses.
Who all did you have sitting again? My bad, bro. You had one other guy that caught my attention.
Breece Hall, Alexander Madison.
Yeah. Breece Hall.
Breece Hall.
So Zach Wilson threw 3 picks against Dallas. You think they're like, hey man, let's run the ball more? Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, they're playing the Patriots. Patriots have a good defensive front. They actually let's see. Let me pull this up.
You think like him and Dalvin Cook might get some more touches since old boy can't throw the ball at quarterback?
I thought that was last week too, and neither of them really had an impressive week. I think the Patriots defense is pretty similar to the Cowboys defense, to be honest.
Yeah,
Cowboys might have like one little leg up, but they're both pretty strong defenses.
Yeah,
I'll say this is gonna be the lowest scoring game of the week.
Jets and who'd you say they play? Patriots.
It's gonna be like
dude, Mac Jones has looked good, honestly. I think he's looked pretty good.
You think so?
And I know you haven't talked about tight ends, but I think Hunter Henry over there on the Patriots, that's a solid tight end one. That dude's looking pretty good. He's I think he's had like 15-ish points both games for a tight end. When you're tight end scoring that many points, dude, I think it's huge.
Jets have a good defense though.
Cowboys looked all right.
Yeah. Cowboys got a good defense too.
So
sweet.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm gonna hop off here. I'm gonna end this. Everybody say thank you in the comments to AJ. What is it, AJ Eagle?
Yeah, dude.
AJ Eagle. Maybe we can get him on the pod more, unless everybody comments that they hate you being on it or something, then I just can't let you back on it, right?
Impossible, dude. They'll love me. I know it.
But yeah, thanks for joining, man, for sure.
No problem, dude. It was awesome being here. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.